Namaskaram, everybody. Thank you for joining. Let's begin. Om बीजपूरगदेक्षुकर्मुकुरुज चक्राब्जपाशोत्पल व्रीयग्रस्वपिशानरत्नकलशैः प्रोद्यत्कराम्भोरुवः देयो वल्लभया स पद्मकरया आश्लिष्टोज्ज्वलद्भूषया विश्वोत्पत्तिविपत्तिसंसतिकरो विघ्नेश इष्टार्दधः श्रीनाथादिगुरुत्रयं गणपतिं पीठत्रयं भैरवम् सिद्धौघं वटुकत्रयं पदयुगं धूतीक्रमं मण्डलम् वीरान्ध्यष्टचतुष्कषष्टिनवकं वीरावळी पञ्चकम् श्रीमन्मालिनीमन्त्रराजसहितं वन्दे गुरुर्मण्डलम् माथर्मे मधुखैटभग्निमहिषः प्राणापहारोद्यमे हेलानिर्मितधूम्रलोचनवदे हे चण्डमुण्डार्दिनी निःशेषीकृतरक्तबीजदनुजे नित्ये शुम्भापहे शुम्भध्वंसिनि संहर सुदुरितन् दुर्गे नमस्तेऽम्बिके. So we are beginning with the February month lecture series on Srividya traditions. And if I have to say a few words on these series of lectures we are going to have, these are going to be foundational lectures. And these are considered for beginners. So I'm expecting those who are listening are actually in the beginner stage. And this is going to be a traditional way of learning, in a sense, like I'll be giving, it will be a upanyasam style based learning. Upanyasam means a lecture. The teacher gives a lecture, you take notes, and at the end of the class, keywords will be published. If possible, we will be publishing even the class notes for you. And you are expected to expand to learn on these concepts that I'm teaching, actually, that I'm going to speak, actually. You'll be getting the keywords and also the references, the bibliographies that I've been using. So you would be getting those text materials, I mean the books and the other materials, also the transcript of this lecture. So you can use them. And also I would encourage you to start writing the key terms as you listen to me. So that, because this is a study, basically, this is a study, this is a very systematic study, and then the study has practicals, and then there is demonstrations, and then this leads to realization. The only thing is that in a material education, there is nothing called as realization, actually, but here we have something called this realization to come in, actually. So today, the foundations of Srividya. When we actually speak about Srividya, many people immediately imagine something very secretive, actually, or maybe very complex, perhaps, and they are kind of very ritualistic based. Some think it is only about powerful mantras to gain some materialistic benefits, actually. And some think that it is all about some yantras, drawing them, and it's all about meditating on them, actually. And others think that it is a difficult school which is only meant for a selective few, actually. And the worst part is that a few of them, when they think Srividya is Tantra, they immediately put this in this perspective. Actually, particularly, I'm very sorry to say this is there in the North India. When we say that we are learning Tantra, Srividya means that has some kind of sophistication to it. But the moment when we say we are into Tantra, the next word they will ask is, क्या आप जादू टोना करते हैं क्या? They ask this. What has Jadoo Tona to do with Tantra? Thanks to Indian cinemas like Professor U. Harban has wrote exemplary articles on this topic. Actually, this the entire concept of this Jadoo Tona coming from the Bollywood movies, actually, and also even in South Indian movies, there are a lot of movies which show the fact that keeping some dolls and pricking them with needles and doing some putting splashing some colors of turmeric and some kunkuma and like asif, something is being done. Actually, that is all about tantra. Actually, unfortunately, this is the concept which most of them carry in their mind. But thanks to the revolution in the internet that is happening in today's time, particularly the way Shakta traditions is growing is amazing, actually, in a way. The tremendous amount of work that has been put in by a lot of good people around, actually, and trying to bring in the best of the efforts for everybody, because the best thing is that tantra is for everybody, actually. And also Sri Guruji Amritanath Saraswati of Devipuram strictly believed the fact that this is definitely meant for everyone, and he took great pains to make sure that this knowledge remains and sustains, and it continues in traditions for generations to come in, actually. So Srividya means, let me tell you, these are all not, if this is like kind of an FAQ, I'm telling you, these are all not the conceptions about Srividya. But when we actually enter into the heart of Srividya, like, we realize that there is something very beautiful, students, actually. And when I'm talking about beautiful, the concept of beauty, uh, you should be asking. I might, the upcoming days, I'll ask our fellow students. Yesterday, the 2 days, we had the Sri Chakra Pratishthapana in our Peetam. I think you are all following our Sadhaka Sangha and on also our social media. We're trying to constantly be in touch. And some of you had been very gracious and very, very much, emotionally a part of the journey. You have also started your 48 days of Lalita Sahasranama chanting and doing some ways of, I've asked you to light 2 lamps, in the evening to connect with the Sri Chakra. And I think you're all able to do that. And that is a beautiful part of it. Actually, I can see some of you giving me thumbs up and smiling, and I can see that's the happiness, actually, how even in the virtual world we are all trying to build a mandala. Actually, a Sri Chakra mandala is actually graciously, it is connecting. And if I have to put it in a very honest way, I actually remembered each one of you, particularly all those students who are very active in some or the other ways in the classroom, in your presentations, in your writing. I could remember each one of you, how much you are connecting. And today, that was witnessed in so many comments that I've been reading in the Facebook, like for the wishes that have been coming in, the sense of belongingness that we are created. This is no less than a mandala, actually. I should tell you this. So that beauty is what connects the soul, actually. That's something, a very essentially central part of Sri Vidya traditions, or learning the Sri Vidya, or understanding Sri Vidya, because Lalita is not a distant deity where we are trying to aspire for her, where we are, what happens in the other traditions, particularly the Vaishnav traditions. They feel that Bhagwan is somewhere else and I am here, and we have the distant separation, the separation, the sense of separation, the sadness of separation. But that is not there in Sri Vidya, beautifully, actually. That is one of the contrasting difference when it comes between Vaishnavism and Shakta traditions, particularly within the concept of Sri Vidya, because we understand that it is a living goddess, and she is very much present where? She's very much present within us, actually. So we might start being a dasya, actually. We might feel like I am the servant of Lalita. I am the mother of Lalita. I am the father of Lalita. I am the child of Lalita. But eventually, the Shuddha Bhakti, the Shuddha Jnana of Sri Vidya makes each and every Upasaka to realize that Aham Lalita, actually. That is the beauty, actually. Aham Brahmaswarupini. Mattaf Prakrita Purushatmakam Jagat Shunyancha Shunyancha. As it is given in the Devi Atharvasirusha Upanishad, actually. She makes us to realize through the process, actually. And this was beautifully demonstrated, realized put into practice or put into efforts by our Vidyarthis of our Mahavidyalaya who joined in the last 2 days to bring in this. And also the beauty is that, as I was been saying you all, like even from distant places, like we most of the students I have not even met in physical presence, and you have not seen our Petam or anything that is happening, but how beautifully Lalita is connecting. That connection is the living understanding or invoking the living presence actually. So it is your duty to pray, to feel, to understand, to come to the levels from bhakti to jnanam to tantra, leading to vairagyam actually. And that vairagyam is what? I am not this limited individual. I am not at all this limited individual born in a particular biological or a psychological identity, but I am beyond these concepts actually. And these concepts are related to the karmic structures of this material world. Though I am here, but in a way, I don't belong here. I belong to a very different world. And that world is not distant. That world is very much with me and within me and outside me. And it is my duty to realize that or reconstruct it actually, or re-realize it actually. That is the beauty of Sri Vidya, which we all should understand. Because we will never talk about the fact, or maybe we will talk about the fact that after quitting the body, I wanted the soul should go to Shripuram. True. That is an eternal conception that I don't want what is called as Punarapi Maranam or Punarapi Jananam. But living this world, living this life, living the lifespans that I have, it is not that I'm trying to make it as peaceful or beautiful as possible, but I'm also trying to realize that living goddesses who is the very nature of this entire cosmos. And that very nature, let me put it in Sanskrit, is nothing but prakriti actually, the very some vibe that makes us to live actually, that the living energy that is connecting us. And this living energy is what we are trying to realize in a very systematic manner within the concept of what is called as Sri Vidya. I hope it is clear to all of you what I'm trying to say. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is that the beauty of Sri Vidya is not just about rituals. It is not just about mantras. It is not just about philosophy. It's a complete way of understanding life, the consciousness, the devotion, and freedom. The term freedom is going to be the central tenet of today's 40 minutes that I coined in the introduction. The word Shri and Vidya in itself means the auspicious knowledge, actually. The auspicious knowledge. Or, in other words, it means the sacred wisdom. The sacred wisdom. And what this auspicious knowledge is giving us, this auspicious knowledge is giving us the some totality of, connecting with the supreme goddesses who is considered to be Sri Rajarajeshwari or Lalita Mahatripura Sundari, or technically in the Sri Vidya traditions, she is called as the Parabhattarika. Parabhattarika means the queen of all queens, and and also Mahadevi, the supreme goddesses. In Sri Vidya, Devi is not treated like an limited deity who controls one particular aspect of the universe, students. This is something very important and central tenet to Sri Vidya. Because when we talk about Brahma, we say that Brahma is meant for creation. When we talk about Vishnu, we say that preservation. When we talk about Sadashiva, we say that it is Shiva, rather, it is about annihilation. We talk about Rahu, we talk about Ketu, we talk about Shani, we talk about Surya, we talk about Ganesha, Skanda, all have some specific ways of doing things. But we understand the fact that in Sri Vidya traditions, the central philosophy is understood that she is not doing any particular job, but rather she's the one who is allocating all these jobs to all the deities actually. If we have to put in that kind of a Tattva philosophy in its supreme sense. This is what the entire Srividya tradition is saying, that she is the one who is controlling all the deities, and she is not a part of any of the department because she is actually the head of the department. Actually, she is therefore considered to be the cosmic queen, as we said, Parabhattarika or Mahadevi, or in other words, she's called as Parashakti in the form of Chandika Mahalakshmi. Therefore, Tripura Sundari is understood to be the very source of everything, students. This is something we have to put it into our knowledge perspective, actually, like, because um, the entire idea is that Tripura Sundari is the consciousness in itself, and Tripura Sundari is the power that manifests this entire universe. Actually, it is all her swatantra. Actually, it was purely her freedom. Actually, she desired and the world came into existence. Actually, and we all came in. Actually, that's it. It's as simple as that, but as complex to understand this, actually, or maybe difficult to understand, but it's very simple. She desired, therefore she created. Actually, how she can desire? Nobody can question her. Why? Because she is Parabhattarika. So, therefore, she desired and she created. Therefore, she is the one who is the consciousness. She is the one who is the consciousness. And she, that is the Tripura Sundari, Parambika, Parabhattarika, is the one who is manifesting the entire universe in terms of the beauty, in terms of the order, and in terms of the intelligence that is there behind the creation, actually. And now, when we say that Srividya, like what we are referring, we are talking about three interconnected dimensions, students. Okay, the first is it refers to an entire spiritual traditions, which is consisting of the teachings, the practices, the rituals, the philosophies, and the Guru Paramparas. In other words, the lineages. Let me tell it once again. The first point is all about the entire spiritual traditions. Actually, the Parampara, what we call, the Parampara. It is all about what the teachings in each of the Paramparas, the practices that are differing. We will talk about all these aspects. Each aspect we will look into very detail in the upcoming classes. What are teachings? What are practices? What are rituals, what are philosophies. We will be seeing we will be expanding or scaffolding this knowledge. So the philosophies and the lineages or the Guru Parampara that is involved within the system. Number two, it refers to the central tenet of mantra, like the way we have for Chandi, we have in the Durga Saptashati has a tenet, that the central structure is Navakshari mantra. Similarly, in the Srividya tradition, it is the Panchadashi mantra, which is the center of the entire understanding. Actually, the sum total of all the understanding emanates from the Panchadashi mantra, actually. And all the traditions, irrespective of the differences they have, what for the practices, the lineages, the teachings, or the traditions, but everybody is involved in this one element called as the Panchadashi mantra. The Panchadashi is the central tenet, actually. And when we talk about Panchadashi as a mantra, it has two components. One is Hadi Vidya and one is Kadi Vidya. We will look into, you can make a note of this. We will be talking about this as the classes are going to unfold. What is Kadi Vidya and what is Adi Vidya? We will talk about this. So for now, the understanding is that it is all about Panchadashi. It is the central thing, actually. And how Panchadashi is used in external and internal practices is all about Srividya, actually. It's all about Srividya. And number three, it refers to the ultimate goal of life. What is the ultimate goal of life? Now let's have a quiz. I'm opening the chat box. One word, kindly guess. I would like to see your answers. Some are very intelligent here. They've caught the keyword that I gave. Let me tell you one thing. Somebody wrote knowledge. Knowledge itself is a Maya, let me tell you. How can knowledge be Maya? Good question. You need to wait for that, actually, if you want me to answer. Thank you so much for these answers. This is lovely actually to see the answers coming in liberation. Most of you are aspiring for liberation, and you are expecting that liberation to be there. But again, this is the centrality of our understanding, because when we are talking about liberation or mukti, it is something which is existing. I need to get that. You understand what I'm trying to say? It's an external thing actually, like I need to attain it actually. And the attaining is coming when we actually die. If I have to put it in a very hard sense, or if I have to put it in a very sophisticated way, when we quit the body, we attain it actually. But that is not the centrality of Srividya, students. We have to understand this. Srividya is centered on Swatantra. Swatantra, Sarvatantreshi, Sarvatantreshi. The entire Tantra, the entire thing is talking about freedom actually. Please understand actually. The entire idea of the Srividya tradition is, or the tantric traditions is talking about freedom. Whether you are in the body or whether you're quitting the body or whatever it is, you are supposed to be free actually. Physically, mentally, emotionally, psychosocially, cognitively, in every sense, you should have swatantrata actually. Are you able to follow what I'm trying to say? Swatantrata is the centrality of Sri Vidya, actually. We have to understand that, actually. Okay. And we will talk about this, the nuances and the notions and the contradictions and the complications that are there in the understanding of what is the Swatantra. As the class will unfold, you will be able to understand, actually. So, this absolute freedom, that Swatantrata that we are talking, is not just a method, students. It is not just a method. It is both the path and the destination. Definitely. Because why it is both a path and the destination? Because unless it is not a path or a destination, it cannot be a sadhana actually. Because a sadhana is a systematic way of taking the journey actually. It's a systematic progress. Just the way we climb the stairs, one after the other, we are supposed to climb actually. Are you able to follow what I'm trying to say? So when we talk about, this destination towards Devi, you know, she's approached in three levels actually. She's approached in three levels. What are they? The first is the Stula Tattva, the Stula level. The stula means gross, the gross form. What is this gross form? The gross form is nothing but the way we imagine, actually. Some of you were talking about Amma, Bhakti, like, I mean, they all have forms, actually. We put it into form, actually, that form, that conceptualization, or what is called as the personalization, we create a personalization, we create a space, actually, in that space, what we do, we we make a relationship actually. We make a relationship, even imagined physical relationship, like Devi is there, Devi is talking to me, Devi is seeing Devi, I can see Devi, I can, I can, this the relationship that is building actually. This is the first level at the gross form, where we imagine, or maybe even in real, I'm not denying it at all actually. So we conceptualize Devi, the goddess who is present everywhere. We start to conceptualizing her, and this helps the human form, our human form, to connect devotionally and emotionally towards the goddesses actually. This is first level. The second level is the Sukshma Tattva. Sukshma refers to the subtle form actually. Sukshma refers to the subtle form. And here in the Sukshma Tattva, Devi is specifically worshipped as a sound, or a Shabda Brahmam, or the vibration, in terms of what is called as mantras. in terms of mantras. And as I told you, in Srividya, the centrality is all about Panchadashi mantra. The centrality is all about Panchadashi mantra. It is based on the Panchadashi mantra. So when we chant the mantra, when we get the upadesha, and when we chant, when we do the japam, even the right word is japam, students. When we do the mantra japam, we are not calling Devi from somewhere else, but we are awakening her presence within our consciousness itself, actually, because we cannot completely see her in ourself because of the karmic structures, the bonds that we have created, or in other words, the wheel that has been put. So what we are trying to do, we are slowly, systematically, and steadily, we are trying to open the wheel, actually, without not disturbing the material elements that are present within us, actually. What does it mean? Like, imagine you are so upset and mad at everybody in the house, and you say, I am leaving this house right this moment. I don't want anybody. I don't need anything. I am leaving. How many of you left? Even I didn't leave. You didn't leave, actually. We are still there. And honestly, there is no more forest are also left over in this world, actually, to leave anywhere. So we cannot do that, basically. So whether we have, no, the Upanishad very clearly says that we have chosen our blood relations, it seems, actually, based on our karmic structures that we carried. People say that I'm unfortunately born in this family. That is absolutely wrong. We have chosen, it seems. This Upanishads very clearly, if I have to talk about that, I need to get into Vedanta. I'm not getting there. But we have come into a particular family and we are living. So living with them, how I'm going to attain that swatantra, living in that family, living in the society, living within a structure, but still how I can attain that swatantra is the secret of Srividya. Is the absolute secret of Srividya. Nothing else is a secret. Nothing else is a secret. To attain that knowledge is the most easiest, yet the difficult thing, actually. Are you able to follow what I'm trying to say? That's the reason Srividya is meant for people of this world, actually. People of this world. In other words, it is actually meant for grihasthas, actually. People who are householders. So when we talk about householders here, we are not narrowing down just for people who are married, but people who are living in this material world, actually. Are you able to follow what I'm trying to say? Everybody is living in this material world. We are all earning. We are all going to jobs. We are all doing different aspects. We have a family, we have an extended family. We have friends, we have many things, actually, both in offline and online, if I have to put it in that sense, in people and in the social world, actually. So how do we, like, in spite of having all these things, how to be so much distant from that, actually? How to maintain your individuality, actually? Yet being a part of everything is what is the beauty or the secret of Srividya. So that is where we invoke that consciousness, as I said, in the second level, that is in the Sukshma Tattva. And the third level is what is called as the Para Tattva, is the Para Tattva. This Para means the subtlest form. The subtlest form. And here, Devi is there in the Shri Chakra. Devi is present in the Shri Chakra, the geometric diagram, which is very structure of this entire reality of the life in which we are leading, actually. Therefore, the Shri Chakra is the visual representation of the universe and our individual consciousness and the collective consciousness together. Universe, which obviously means the collective consciousness, but also giving importance to the individual consciousness. That's the reason, students, if you remember, before the Shri Chakra, I came and met all of you, and what did I say? This Shri Chakra belongs to each one of you. Did I say it or not? This is what I meant, actually. Though we are collectively as a Mahavidyalaya, as Vidyarthis, we are worshipping the Shri Chakra, but the Sri Chakra has the cosmic powers to connect with each individual systematically to their complexities of what the individual is all about, actually. That is the beauty of Sri Chakra. That is the beauty of the Sri Chakra Navavarna Aradhana in itself, actually, students. Okay, so this is the three level that is there in the Srividya traditions. And these three levels are further, they are distinguished, or they are broadly classified into different schools of thoughts like the Samayachara, the Dakshinachara, the Kaulachara, the Mishrachara, the Vamachara traditions. And these Achara traditions we will be seeing in our upcoming classes. There's a class which is dedicatedly given in the next week, I guess, which is talking about the Acharas in the Srividya traditions. There I will be talking about this in a very explicit manner. Moving further, what is happening, unfortunately, is that students, like, when we are getting deeper into the philosophy, we must understand that the worship in Srividya, it is not about just the ritualistic actions that are involved. When I'm talking about the ritualistic actions, it's not just about offering flowers or chanting mantras or performing pujas, or even talking deep philosophies that are there in the Nityotsava or the Parasurama Kalpa Sutra or the Yogini Hridayam, or like all these complex texts that we have, of Lalitopakyanam. It's not just about that, actually, but it is all about what is called as creating an awareness, actually, creating an awareness. And that awareness is what, as given in the Bhagavad Gita, which is also the centrality, which talks about Panditaha Samadarshinaha, that we develop this awareness that Devi is present in everything, actually. As the living goddesses, if I am able to understand that she is present within me, then therefore she is present in each and every tattva that is manifested, because she is the very essence of consciousness, and she is the very essence of the universe, and she is the one who created the universe. So it is just like we are going from top to bottom and bottom to top approach, actually. So we become that Panditaha. Who is a Pandit? The Pandit is the one who has the knowledge of the Shastras as shown by Guru, Sadhu, and Shastras. In the light of the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, the one who unfolds the knowledge is called to be the Panditaha. And that Pandita develops what? Samadarshinaha. This is the real equality we talk about, students. What is equality? This is the equality, where we are able to see everybody as the same Chaitanya Shakti of Parambika, that we don't differentiate them or distinguish them based on their bodily identities or their birth identities, but we deeply connect with them at the soul level. This is what is called as soul connection. What we talk about, the soul connection, that the soul connection is what is the complex structure of the entire matrix of the Sri Chakra. It's connecting all the souls together in different dimensions. So therefore, when we are talking about Devi's presence, it is not that they have to be it's not that you have to see them only in some fellow Upasaka who is dressed like me, having some Chandanam, Kunkumam and all, like they had the presence of Devi. Your mother is Devi, your father is Devi, your spouse is Devi, your children is Devi. In fact, the animals, the street dog or the dog, your pet dog who is there at your house, like the tree which is there in your house, everything is Devi, actually. At the end of the day, everything is Devi. And moving a little more further from there, when you experience happiness or difficulties, you see both as Devi only, actually. Because we generally have the tendency to see the difficulties as Devi, but when it comes to happiness, it's all about me, actually. Like because of me it all happened. But when the difficulty comes in, I don't know what she is doing. She is there, she is there in that photo only. She is not real, this and that. We will say it's all my karma. We try to give all kinds of excuses, actually. But a real sadhaka who's traveling in this path will see everything together. Everything is the same, actually. So therefore, when we talk about this, experienced upasakas, their writings also say that, like in the sense, they talk about that even the daily activities which we do, like cooking food, cleaning the house, working in an office space, or studying, or whatever we do, everything becomes a worship because it is done with awareness. It is done with awareness, not as duty bound activities alone, actually, because we say my duty I am doing. No, Srividya is taking us beyond that concept, and it's saying that it is not just about your duty, my child, but it is also the awareness that is involved in doing anything and everything that we are doing. Is it clear to all of you? Are you able to connect with whatever I'm saying, or it is like, is it going like this, or it is going like this? Like this? Or like this? Some of you are like, what is he even talking about? I mean, is it going inside your mind, or it's going up? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So moving a little further on this, because the entire Srividya is all about, because we also did 2 days of rituals, because I'm just focusing there, actually, I'm in a way, I'm trying to justify it, and that's what I'm trying to do through my class here. The rituals that we do, you know unconsciously or consciously, like, it is all about the transformation that we are looking for, students, actually, that whatever we are trying, whatever we have understood in Srividya, when we want to connect it in reality, that reality is nothing but the rituals which we do, actually, or the rituals that are taught to us, actually. So therefore, Srividya teaches us to convert the entire day into a worship, actually. And I hope my students know, those who came to Mahavidyalaya for the 2 days, like how an entire day can be converted actually into, a space of rituals, actually, from morning to almost like night, it's everything is nothing else but Devi and Devi and Devi alone, actually. So therefore, uh, from here, if I had to take you a little more into the history, because we are going to talk about the history of Srividya also in a little detail. And since it's an introduction class, I'm trying to cover all the aspects. We don't actually understand the historical development of this tradition, but we understand that this historical tradition, the history of Srividya, when we trace, this actually came from the Kashmiri Shaivism traditions to us, actually. And this entire Srividya tradition, because it came from the Kashmiri Shaivism tradition. Obviously, when we talk about the Shaivism tradition, Shiva was a supreme element there. And then how Devi came in, and how Devi's space was recognized, and how she traveled, how this entire knowledge system traveled from north to south, is all a part of the learning which I'll be teaching you further in the classes. But now, to understand, the origins can be traced only to the Kashmiri Shaivism. And from there, when it came to the South India, the Shankaracharya traditions, particularly broadly the Shankaracharya traditions, they understood that this raw way of practicing Tantra is a bit difficult, that was adopted from Kashmiri Shaivism. So it needs to be put into a way that it can be approachable, actually. Therefore, this Kashmiri Shaivism, that knowledge that came in, they reframed it. Actually, the Shankaracharya tradition, they reframed it in a particular manner where it can be a part of the living practices, actually. And that living practices is the predominant school of thought, which is called as the Dakshinachara traditions, actually. The Dakshinachara traditions, which is very prevalent, which is very sophisticated, which is practiced even till today by most of us, but it is practiced by a certain sect or a certain community or a certain caste in a very specific manner, actually. But in the time, by the grace of teachers like Sri Guru Amritanandatha of Devipuram, they have revived it, and they have given it, though they belong to a different tradition called Achara, but they did bring in a lot of people within the traditions and gave the initiations and practices and taught the rituals, the Sri Chakra rituals, the Aradhana, and took it to a very different dimension, actually. But we understand Sri Vidya as a concept, as a school. It was largely, it was a practice, or it is rather still a practice in the South Indian school or the South Indian region. And then it has its origin from the Kashmiri Shaivism. And if you have to really look a little more deeper inside, we see that as the Vedic system developed, the tantric system also was simultaneously developing. It was not that only after the Vedic system developed, the tantric system developed. No, nothing like that. Now, if we have to really, when we have to talk about the temple, the architecture of the temple, that the deities who are installed in the temple and everything, you need the agama. And the agamas, the foundation is tantra actually. And tantra is supported by the Vedanta tradition. So they, in a way, they both go hand in hand. Some of them place Vedanta as a superior traditions for some reasons actually, but that is not the idea or the concept that we actually belong or believe in actually. Because without tantra, there is no approach towards the divine in what is called as within the ritual logics in any of the sampradaya actually. Are able to follow what I'm trying to say? So therefore, even if we have to trace in the South Indian traditions, particularly from the Tamil Shaiva Siddhanta traditions, we understand that Tirumular spoke in Tirumandiram about the concepts of Srividya in a very different dimension. Tirumular in Tirumandiram. Tirumandiram is the text written by the saint called as Tirumular. If you want, you can read about this and interestingly write about this to me and send an email to me. I would be very happy. And these texts primarily talk about two entities or two individual students. What are they? I'm sure you would have guessed it very correctly. Shiva and Shakti. Shiva and Shakti. And one of the most earliest Sanskrit texts that is associated with the Srividya is the Vamakeshwara Tantra. And in this Vamakeshwara Tantra, it very clearly it talks about what is called as the philosophical foundations in which the traditions were built. And it has one very specific portion within the Vamakeshwara Tantra, which talks about the entire rituals or what is called as the Avarna Pujas, the Yantra, either the Mandala Pujas, and also the ways and means of worshipping these mandalas with mantras. And also, it talks about the inner meaning of Sri Chakra, which is nothing but the journey towards the consciousness of what we are actually, what we are actually, we have completely forgotten. And this entire Sri Vidya is to take us to there systematically to make us realize what we are actually. What we are actually, the answer is already there to us. The only thing is that we are not able to realize that. You are able to follow what I'm trying to say. The answer is what? Aham Lalita Mahatripura Sundari. The answer is not secret. The answer is very much available there. But we are not able to realize this actually. Or even my Gurunathar will say, like my Guru will say this, even if this realization is coming, it is like only like 2 minutes, it will be there when the pujas are happening at the end of the puja. Or he says it stays for a few hours. You know where it stays for a few hours? When you witness someone's death action. When you're witnessing a death, there you realize what this life is all about. Even I am going to go one day. What we are trying to do, what we are fighting for, what we are trying to create all these quarrels. That realization is there in that place, it seems. See, we understand that the place where death has happened is a very inauspicious place, but that is the most auspicious place, it seems, because it connects with our realization actually. And we are so afraid of self-realization that the entire concept of death has become very inauspicious for us actually. But the moment when we get out from that place and wear our chappals and start walking, we'll say, next when we are going to take coffee and start the other works that we have. The realization gone. Are able to follow what I'm trying to say? Very practically, the demonstration or the understanding is coming in for us actually. So therefore, the Yogini Hridaya, the text Yogini Hridaya, very clearly explains that the inner meaning of Sri Chakra or the journey of consciousness is demonstrated to the sadhaka in a very systematic manner. Actually, very systematic manner is the word that is very important for us students, because it is not that the realization is there but I'm not able to realize it, or maybe I'm able to realize it but I'm not able to sustain it actually. Yes or no? We all know that we are going to quit the body. Yes or no? Is there anybody who doesn't know the truth here, that you are going to eternally live in this world? Anybody who's thinking there like this? But honestly to tell, is any one of us behaving like that? None of us are behaving like that. So that realization is there, but there is no sustaining of that realization is there. Yes or no? Therefore, the Yogini Hridayam is systematically bringing us to that realization stream. Why systematically? Because it sustains within us. It sustains within us that we live with that knowledge and we reach with that knowledge to Sri Puram. Are you able to follow? We live and we reach actually. That is the beauty of Srividya, because it is practicals. In a simple sense, Srividya is not arts or humanities. It's science, because it is practical oriented actually. It's not just about some abstract philosophy, which you keep aiming, which you keep looking forward to. No, it's all about actions actually. And unfortunately, that action has been reduced to ritualistic, mantra based, need based, materialistic sources in today's times actually. You do this mantra, you will get that particular benefit. You do that mantra, you are going. True, no doubt about it. But this is not Sri Vidya, that I do this mantra to obtain a particular material desire. It is Atma Vidya. It is giving us Atma Sakshatkara. It is making us to understand this world. It is making us to understand myself. It is making me to understand what my family is all about, why this society is all about, why, the questions of why that I have, which cannot be easily answered. Why, how, who, when, all these questions are answered in a very systematic manner in Sri Vidya traditions, actually. So therefore, when we talk about the entire sum total of all these understandings, it is within the non-dual philosophy, which is coming from the Kashmiri Shaivism that I just spoke. There's a strong emphasis that is coming with the consciousness as the ultimate reality. That is what, in simple sense, what we call as the Advaita Vedantam in the Dakshina Bharata Desham, actually. This is called as the Advaita Vedanta Tattvam, actually. And which was very strongly integrated within Sri Vidya tradition. The entire tantric system doesn't have the Advaita tradition coming in together, though it is all about, it's all about merging or realizing that divine. But Sri Vidya explicitly connects with the Advaita Tattva. So Vedanta is connecting to Tantra with a medium that is called as Sri Vidya. Because of this particular reason, Sri Vidya today stands as a beautiful synthesis of Tantra and Advaita. Therefore, some of the traditions, some of the Guru Paramparas, they emphasize on the ritual processions. You have to do the ritual in this particular manner only, and you cannot change it actually. If it has to be a red color flower, you have to only use the red color flower. You understand? If it has to be this quantity of Amritam, you have to prepare only that ml of Amritam, you have to prepare and offer to Devi. If you have to cut the ginger in a particular methodology for in the Navavarna Puja, that is the way you are supposed to cut. You are not supposed to do it in any other. So there is a precession actually. It's a mathematics actually. If you do here and there, the end result will not be the same actually. So they give that precession to you actually. Some are deeply rooted in the philosophical inquiry. They go deeply within the text actually and talk about the philosophies. And some emphasize on devotion actually, bhakti. Within the Sri Vidya tradition, there is bhakti is also so predominant actually. So, but all these beautifully realize or take us to only one path, which is nothing but Devi alone. The tattva of Devi alone is the part of any of these lineages or the traditions that I spoke, actually, which we'll be looking into detail. So moving further, the Panchadashi mantra has three major stream students, which I just mentioned to you: the Kadi Vidya, the Hadi Vidya, and the Sadi Vidya. Sadi. Kadi, Hadi, and Sadi. The Kadi Vidya is the most popular traditions which is present even now. And it is supported by important texts like the Tantra Raja Tantra, and Varivasya Rahasya. These texts are very much available, and many commentaries are there in local languages. I know that the commentaries are written in Telugu, Kannada, Hindi, English also. A few academicians have written beautifully. Some good books are there in this. You can search about this, the Tantra Raja Tantra and Varivasya Rahasya. And because it is a very famous, and this is a tradition which is still living, and it's been practiced by large sect of people, actually. Large sect of traditions follow this, actually. And the next one is the Hadi Vidya, which is associated with sage Agastya and Lopamudra. Agastya and Lopamudra's tradition is the Hadi Vidya, Hadi, Hadi Vidya. And the third one, the Sadi Vidya tradition, is very less or commonly practiced now. We will talk about this three traditions as we move further in the upcoming classes. But how the traditions are recognized, it is through the syllable arrangements in the Panchadashi mantra. How the syllables are arranged, actually, each of the bijaksharas are arranged. Based on that, the tradition differs, actually. Okay. Now let us come back to the Sri Chakra a little more. The Sri Chakra consists of the 9 avarnas, are the enclosures. Each enclosure represent a level of reality, both cosmic and psychological. And as a sadhaka, when you move inner avarnas one after the other through your processes of rituals, upasana, text studies, the way your guru has instructed to do certain mantra japams, you practice certain things. What happens is that you move towards from the outer square to the inner bindu systematically and symbolically. You try to see the entire world by being in that bindu, actually, with a full, complete consciousness, with awareness. And you will be able to realize in that bindu that Devi is present in that bindu, and she's present everywhere outside. So you can see her within yourself, and you can see her everywhere outside of yourself. And here, in the traditional sense, she is seated as Sri Chakraraja Simha Saneshwari. On a Simhasanam, you are able to see her, actually. And how she is guiding this entire cosmic functions, with just her fingers moving and her eyes guiding. All the devatas are just standing like this for her instructions, actually. And you are able to see that, actually, the mother whom we have taken for so much of granted, so much of exploitation. What is her status all about? You will be able to see that, actually. She is my mother. First of all, I have forgotten that. Even if I have known that, I have exploited her because she's my mother. After all, a mother, what she can do? She's so emotional. At the end of the day, she can only cry. Or maybe if she has some resource, she will give it to me only. Where she will go. Like that, I have treated my mother. But you see, my mother, in front of my mother, all these powerful people, that two men, are standing like this, waiting for her order up. Actually, that realization connects us deeply and deeply to our soul, actually. And that is where the Hridaya Kamalam flourishes. The Hridaya Kamalam flourishes. And you understand all the explained and unexplained tattvas which is present in the entire cosmic world. Whether, that Spurana Shakti comes in actually. There's no need for somebody to teach you actually. The Spuranam happens, Spuranam will happen. It just opens up. Like now it is like this for us. It's complex and it is like this. What happens? It just opens like this. You realize everything for yourself. That is the central understanding that happens with Srividya, that whether it happens with bhakti, whether it happens with philosophy, or it happens with a combination of both, however it is, that is what will happen with Srividya. And there, whom you are seeing like this, Brahma standing to create, Vishnu standing to preserve, and Rudra standing to dissolute just based on her orders. And Ishana representing the transcendence, Sadashiva at the base of her very throne. Sadashiva is nowhere. She's just sitting on Sadashiva, actually. Huh? And this entire universe is just resting on her thumbnail, students. You will be able to visualize that. You will be able to see that actually. And that is the entire understanding the Sri Chakra brings into us actually. Therefore, the Sri Chakra is described to be the Chintamani. What is that? Chintamani Grihantasta. What is that Chintamani, students? The wish fulfilling gem, actually. The wish fulfilling gem. That's a reason we are supposed to be we are supposed to be careful, or we are supposed to be lucky, or we are supposed to be fortunate, whatever it is. The way we direct the Sri Chakra will give those kind of results actually. Are able to follow what I'm trying to say? It just acts as a representative magnet to attain powers that you are desiring to bring in. If you are desiring for Atma Vidya, the Sri Chakra will exactly emanate Atma Vidya actually. If you are desiring some XYZ things for the material world, it will emanate that. And you will think, oh, my Sri Chakra is very powerful. It has manifested. Yes, of course, it will manifest. But remember that mother story, which I just mentioned to you. So this Chintamani Grihantasta is nothing but this indicates that the entire worldly happiness and spiritual liberation, everything is there with our mother, the goddesses. And Srividya, as we mentioned, it doesn't reject the life. It harmonizes and it brings a kind of an embodiment of the enjoyment and liberation together. And this embodiment of enjoyment and liberation together is a central understanding of Shiva and Shakti coming together in unity as what is called as Ardhanarishwara Tattva in the purest of the pure consciousness, which is all about silent, unchanging, and infinite understanding, which talks about Shakti as the dynamic power of manifestation, movement, creativity, and energy. And Shiva is actually the same tattva or the same concept, which is the same reality connecting to bring two elements together. Just as the ocean and its waves are not separate from each other, just as the fire and the heat are not separate from each other, without Shiva and Shakti, nothing can manifest actually. And this unity is explained through the tattva of Prakasha and Vimarsha within the tradition of Srividya. That is, Prakasha is the consciousness shining by itself, and Vimarsha is the consciousness that is becoming aware of itself. With this, I complete today's class. Tomorrow, I will continue from Prakasha and Vimarsha and take you further into the ocean of Srividya by only and only grace of Parambika and Guru Mandalam. With this, I end the session with Mangalam. सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरि नारायणि नमोऽस्तुते जयन्ती मङ्गला काली भद्रकाली कपालिनी दुर्गा क्षमा शिवा धात्री स्वाहा स्वधा नमोऽस्तुते दुर्गे स्मृता हरसि भीतिमशेषजन्तोः स्वस्तैः स्मृता मतिमतीव शुभान् ददासि दारिद्र्यदुःखभयहारिणिका त्वदन्या सर्वोपकारकरणाय सदात्र चित्ता श्रीदुर्गायै नमः सर्वं श्रीचण्डी महालक्ष्मी अर्पणमस्तु तथास्तु. Thank you so much. See you all in